This video contains subject matter that may be offensive and disturbing to some people. If you are the type to require a warning throughout a video or show, let this message serve as your warning. This channel discusses the harsh reality of true crime. If this warning is not sufficient for you, consider a different genre and unsubscribe from my channel immediately. The robot. What's going on, freaks? Yeah, Blue. Yep. Yeah, let me try this again. It's not working right. There we go. Okay. Yeah, it was opened up with the wrong program. Not sure what was up with it. All right, so you guys remember the case that we were talking about last night? Sophia Baird. We did the first 3 chapters of a 1984 newspaper article that went over the whole case, and maybe we can all just sort of remember together collectively. What I remember was that she was from, I can't actually remember her hometown at this point, but she went there to Cincinnati because she just wanted to, she realized that she was pretty and she wanted to go out and see what the world had to offer. So she was only, her parents were accepting of her going because she had a friend that was going with her. And then they went there, they lived in a place, and then they finally got another place in downtown at a hotel, or I don't know, it wasn't really a hotel, it's kind of an apartment, but it's kind of a dicey place, run by a woman who had connections with the police and the mob, and they all kind of worked together and some homogenous craziness. And her roommate, I guess, was engaged, and one night they just all went on a trip together, and on the way back she wasn't talking because she had a sense that she was going to be killed, and I think it's because she saw something. And then when they got back to the hotel, she went down to the lobby or something, and then she came back with her face all white, and she started having shivers and chills, almost like she witnessed the same, maybe saw the person. I think she saw something, and it was coming back to, they mentioned something to her like, you better not say anything, or maybe even something more dramatic than that, like, we're gonna kill you, and because she saw something she shouldn't. And then when they got back from that trip, she probably saw something again. And then I think it was a couple nights later, she was in her room. I don't know. You know what's weird about the whole story is where was the roommate during this? Do you guys remember anything about that? Like, where in the hell was her roommate during the killing? Because she got basically killed in her room, and then she stumbled out into the hallway and kept bleeding and then died there. But she was in her room, and I think at 10:30, a person down the hall went into her apartment with the door unlocked and said, hey, woke her up and said, can I borrow your iron? And so she gave her the iron. Then the girl left. And then a little bit later, the girl went back into the room to get ink, but didn't want to wake her up. So got the ink and left. And that was at 11:15. And then something like, maybe 11:45, people were hearing arguments. And then she was stabbed, multiple times and murdered and left in the hallway there. And then the media blamed it on black people. Just kept saying it over and over and over and over again. It almost seemed intentional how often they would say that. But as we learned last night, it seemed like there was some other elements perhaps going on. And that's sort of where we left off on the 3rd chapter, right? Does that sound about right? What else do you want? Do we need to have in there? Yeah, I don't remember it being a cousin. I thought it was just a friend, but yeah, where was the roommate at the time of the murder? Because remember, she was like in the hallway or something, and then let me find that article really quick, because there was one early article. Well, I'm glad so many of you actually remember everything. That's pretty cool. Wow, you guys really do listen. That's amazing.
Whoa.
I know, it's incredible, isn't it? I think it was one of these first one, yeah, like this one right here, right? Because that's the roommate right there in the middle, I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure, yeah. So down here it said blood stains, da-da-da. At top, her roommate Mildred Sharp is in the center, talks with the victim's second cousin, Mrs. Phoebe Bolin left, and Mrs. Bolin's daughter, Betty Jean Bolin right. Because of the tragedy, Miss Sharp is staying at the Bolin's home. So, but where was she that night, That part's confusing. Let me just see if it's in some of these early, and we missed it. And it was Mary Bezena is the hotel owner, and she seems to have connections with the seedy underworld and police that look the other way and are allowed to use rooms in there for their whatever they want to use them for, right? No, she wasn't at work. Oh, you mean the roommate? Yeah, maybe she was. I think you might be right. I thought you were talking about the victim. Yeah, I think you might be right. Remember, because she called. Yeah, that's right. I think that's right. Because remember, she called to see if she wanted to come and go to work, and Sophia said, "Oh, I'm too tired. I'm just gonna stay at home," and basically just kind of I was gonna drink a Coke and and she fell asleep on the bed there at like 5 o'clock. You remember that? What does Purple Cow have to do with it? I don't get it. Yeah, so he just kind of. I think that's it. Yeah, well, that's what Jen just said up there too. Yeah, that's how it went. I just remember that myself. Oh, the restaurant's Purple Cow? Yeah. Okay. So that's where the roommate was. All right. It's weird. I wonder if they asked the roommate, did you tell anybody at work? Because isn't it weird that she was supposed to go work, but, you know, the roommate must have said to some people, oh yeah, she can't go, she's too tired, she's still back there. And then maybe somebody overheard that. But I don't know. Seems like it's something different than that to me. Oh, and let me just throw this out there. I was thinking about that. You know the last case that we discussed earlier? The woman that was killed. Let me see. Hold on a second. I just wanted to remember to say it. Mary Bezena in Minnesota. And remember how the father said that she liked her, more than any of the other kids, right? Do you guys remember that? On the earlier show? That the father said, the one that adopted her, said, so what if she's now in the will, okay? And then the other son, the son that sort of just was interviewed, but just let go. It makes so much sense that he did it. Because she's in the will, but he wants everything. And she's a latecomer to this whole thing. Why should she get a nickel, right? Maybe she was even given more than he was. And he found out about it. And the killing isn't one of sexual nature. It's an anger killing. Stabbing to the throat, just taking her out and dumping her body, right? And guess what? Her body is found in the yard of the woman he divorced a couple of years, years before that. So doesn't that make a hell of a lot of sense right there? What I mean, I don't even know what you're talking about, Gene. Yeah. So she was going to probably be on his will, and then his son was on the will, but maybe he didn't get as much, or maybe she was going to get a lot. So he kills her one night. And he knows, the dad knew that she went to the show on her own. He probably knew what time the buses were coming. And maybe he knew too. And it could be that he got somebody else to do it too. I don't really know, but based on the information, what they're saying, it doesn't sound like the father, they must have been really they knew something was up there in that family, but they couldn't pin it on the dad, and that's probably why. It's because the son maybe came up with a good alibi, but maybe that wasn't true, right? Okay, Gene. Yeah, Gene's... Hey, everybody. Gene, man, she's always on top of it, man. Always has it... yeah, I think everybody had a thought of that, about inheritance. I just am now putting it together in terms of how it happened. Yeah. So the thing is, the son was in the... he was interrogated too, right? Jeez. Yeah, you should have your own show, Gene. I'm sure it would be really fantastic, man. You could have said it. I said it, look! And everybody could prove it. And, yeah, so don't you think that makes more sense now? That the body of his ex-wife, excuse me. His sister is in competition for the inheritance. And then he dumps the body in the yard of his ex-wife's dad, and she lives there too. I mean, so that's what I'm saying. Like, what are the odds that would have happened? Right? 1 in a million. All right, just some random killing, it throws in there. And so to me, it just seems really obvious, and I guarantee it. You wonder who got the inheritance. And I bet you it was in the newspaper, because back then they used to post all that stuff. But the dad died in 1954, So you wonder if there's a newspaper article out there. Maybe we'll have to take a look at that a little bit later. All right. On that other case, by the way. No, that was 1980. Wait, what time was that one? Yeah, that was 1950. Right. All right, which case are you talking about, Swerves? I was talking about the one from earlier today. Now, that's a really wild speculation right there. Hey, what if aliens came in too, Swerves? We just never know at that point. No, that didn't happen. The dad probably suspected his son, and that might be why his testing came back. Maybe. Could have been something like that. Yeah. Yeah, I see what you're talking about. Yeah, last night's show, yeah. That doesn't make any sense, what you just typed in. You know, while it's something that's possible, why it's just wild speculation. There's nothing to indicate that whatsoever. All right, let's see. Me? No, I brought up the other case. Yeah. I'm not sure what you're talking about. What if she slipped something before going home? The face down, passing out. Oh, Jesus. Thanks, Meredith McKenzie. All right, now let's get back to Sophia Baird. Yeah, I didn't mix the cases. I knew which ones I was talking about. But that probably confused people. Yeah. But man, Gene already had it figured out. Gene Fish is my is like Chloe to Blue to me, right? Or like Mary Lou to John Boy. But she yeah, no. See, I don't do the wild. I mean, that's just such a wild thought, Swerves. That's what I'm saying. It just. That's why a lot of people don't like the show sometimes, because I don't entertain that kind of stuff. Like, oh wow, you know, maybe the. Oh, you didn't have to delete it. Now I can't go read the damn thing. Jesus. I wanted to go read it again. You know, here's the thing is, I remember thinking that when she went into the room, like, wow, wouldn't it be weird if she was the killer? Right? But I don't say it out loud because it's just, it doesn't make any sense. You know, somebody down the hall that wanted a curling iron, or no, an iron to iron clothes, and then a little bit later wanted some ink, you know? So then I don't say it. It's okay, Swerves. I always like that name. Swerves. Oh, you thought maybe she had she tried to get adopted for the inheritance, is what you're saying, Gene? Yeah. Well, I don't know. It seems I don't know what the purpose was. See, that's a strange thing. You know what it might be? She might have been 17 or 18, maybe 18 years old at the time. And I'm going back to the other case for a second. She might have been 17 or 18 at the time. She was taking piano lessons somehow. And he became fond of her and said, you know what? You don't have anybody. Why don't I adopt you? And he adopted her. And then he realized that, man, he really cared about her more than even his own kids. Moved her up in the will. And then his son found out about it. Took her out and then threw the body in the yard of his ex-wife's, because that's where his ex-wife lived. That makes sense to me. So that's about all I can say on that one. But that's where after the show, I was sitting around thinking about it. And that was the only thing that really made any sense, because the killing wasn't sexual. It was really just a hit on her. Okay, now let's get back to this one. Yeah, it is kind of weird that she was scared but didn't lock her door, but it almost seems like nobody locked their doors back then. Like, it just wasn't something you even thought about. Right? Maybe there was, maybe there are locks, or I wasn't going to say there weren't locks. Of course there's locks, but it just seems like back then nobody locked their door. But yeah, it is kind of bizarre, Dan, that if she was scared, so frightened at the time. Well, didn't the other people... No, she came home, and she didn't lock her door. Maybe there was some deal with, like, her roommate needed to be able to get in on her own, and she wanted to fall asleep, and maybe they didn't have a second key or something, or could be something like that. Yeah, you're confused. All right, so here we go, everybody. We're going to get on to part 4 now. But I got to switch the music up, right? Here we go. Get the right song on. I think it's Dark Times. Right? There it is. Well, now we're back on to the case in Cincinnati. So here's the breakdown again. Sophia Baird, a pretty 20-year-old waitress, was murdered in Cincinnati on Easter Sunday 41 years ago. The murder was never solved. For a time, the case claimed the avid attention of the press, but when police were unable to solve the puzzle of her final days, Sophia Baird was all but forgotten until 1979, spurred by the mysterious reappearance of Sophia Baird's corpse in a Tennessee cemetery. Adrian Baird set out to answer the questions that had plagued his family for 36 years. The story of Sophia's life and death and her brother's search for the truth have been reconstructed from contemporary newspaper accounts, documents, letters, and the memories of those still living. The memories of one particularly important source had been committed to tape shortly before her death. So there you go. I don't remember what state she came from, but she wanted to go to a big city. The small town just wasn't enough for her. So she went to Cincinnati during, wartime. It was almost seemed a little bit like New Orleans or something. Didn't it have that sort of feel? These different bars with music going around, and people were it was just all kinds of stuff going on that, today isn't a normal city. It seemed like New Orleans in 1943 in Cincinnati, Ohio, right? Yeah, that's one of the things we could bring up, is that that was one of the factoids, is that Adrian was looking into her death and got a phone call threatening him, telling him not to look into it. And then apparently there must have been some other calls that he referred to, but we don't know what was in those. All right. Oh, that's right. There were cockroaches on the floor in their first apartment. Then they moved to one that didn't have cockroaches, but yet it still had cockroaches of the human variety. And that leads us to tonight's episode number 4. Hey, thank you, Nicole Brower. Oh yeah. There you go. Look at that. Wait, hold on. Woo! Right there, Nicole. Did you ever get my email? People want to have this mug. Wait, what are these called again? Anyways, people want to have this thing, Nicole. So you gotta. Is there a way to make a bunch of these, or was it like a one-timer for me? Oh, tumbler. There you go. Yeah, tumblers. I mean, I bet it was pretty complicated to make, wasn't it? Yeah, it's awesome. Look at this thing. It goes all the way around. Be safe out there, freaks. The crime scene tape, blood spatter. Gray Hughes investigates. Blood dripping down right there. First, I thought those were molars, but. And then, more crime scene tape. Oh, you're working on some? Cool. Yeah, send me some pictures. Yeah, maybe you can, on the side, you can sell those to some of the freakazoids. Anyways, thank you very much. Yeah, it did have a lid. I don't even know where it is now because I never used the lid. I just kind of drink out of it. I think it's in the kitchen though. Anyways, thank you very much, Nicole Browler. Very kind, very kind. All right, here we go. Let me take my face off of here so I can squint and nobody goes, "Great, you're not blinking." I don't know who Bob Meldon is. Do we know who Bob Meldon is at this point? Let me go back to the one before. I don't remember Meldon being in here. Oh yeah, Meldon Leap. Oh yeah. I think he's an officer, right? That's right. Yeah, he was that detective. Okay. Bob Meldon got the hand-scrawled note in the mail in December of 1979. Mr. Meldon, the note began, "If you can locate Mary Bezena, I will provide expenses plus $100 a day. It may be the last word on the case if she's still alive." So that was 1979. That same detective got a note. It was signed A. Baird. Let's see. Meldon had met Adrian Baird a week before in a tavern in downtown Cincinnati. Of course, he had immediately remembered the Sophia Baird case. Even a man who had been in a dozen gun battles, killed 3 men in the line of duty as a Cincinnati police detective, and kept the morgue pictures of their bullet-riddled bodies in a scrapbook. Even such a man doesn't forget the sight of a pretty young woman drenched in blood. Meldon, who always had an eye for pretty girls, had known Sophia by sight. And though he had been there the night of the murder and had even seen her die, he hadn't worked on the case. The detective, who had done most of the original investigation in 1943, Tom Farrager and Walter Hart, were both dead. Farrager had died in his sleep just 5 years earlier at the age of 68. Hart was killed by robbers in a shootout at the Grey Eagle, a downtown cafe, in 1955. Adrian had heard from a journalist who had written about Sophia's murder. That many years later, Hart and Farrager had regretted their initial infatuation with the Black Power and suspected that some of the people in the hotel had lied. So what is that saying? Let's see. Adrian had heard from journalists who was... Okay. So a journalist said that they were a little too over-enthusiastic about a black person being involved. But their suspicions never bore fruit. Eventually, a notation was attached to the case file by Chief Detective Clem Mers. Some arrests were made, but the witnesses could not agree on an identification. Case closed. Hart Farragher and Mers were all dead now. So is Fred Proctor, hotel handyman. Ma Bezena was long gone, and her son Lou had died in 1970 at the age of 70. Because this took place in 1943, okay? That left Lou's wife, Mary Bezena. So who's Ma Bezena? So that was the owner, and then Lou had a wife named Mary Bezena? Or is Ma Bezena Mary Bezena? Jeez. That left Lou's wife, Mary Bezena, the last known living witness. Adrian Baird had learned that Mary suffered some kind of collapse following Lou's death and had been hospitalized for a year. The last he could find out, she had been living with a relative somewhere in Florida. At the time of the murder, Mary had been only 21 years old to her husband's 43. That's probably, so she was young enough to still be alive. Mildred remembered her as a pretty little hillbilly gal from Maysville, Kentucky. Hey, sounds like Mary Ann from Gilligan's Island. Lou had married her when she was 15. Wow. So when she was 15, he was 37. That's ridiculous. 37-year-old marrying a 15-year-old? Really? Jeez. Mary had been the first one up the steps to where Sophia lay bleeding to death. She told police that as she ran up, she saw a black man with a mustache running down the back stairs. Taken with Proctor's statement that the same man asked for... Yeah, it's going to be for Mrs. Beard's room. But it says Beard, but her name is Baird. And this is Nothing But Ashes is the name of the 5th episode or installment here. Here, let me read that last part. Mary had been the first one up the steps to where Sophia lay bleeding to death. She told police that as she ran up, she saw a black man with a mustache running down the back stairs, taken with Proctor's statement that the same man asked for Mrs. Beard. Half an hour before this was clearly the point on which the whole case hinged. So they're just assuming that that was related, I guess. Lucy Thomas popped out at Adrian from a photostat of an Equirer front page dated April 27, 1943. Let's see if I have it. So it says, Lucas Thomas popped out at Adrian from the photostat of an Equirer front page dated April 27, 1943. Do I have that one? Here, let me try something really quick. Just want to see what they're talking about. April 27, 1943, Ohio. And it was the Inquirer. I don't see it. But the Inquirer is in here. Oh wait, maybe it was. Hold on, that was it. So there's a Cincinnati Inquirer, the first one. And that's not the front page, so let's go to the front page. See if that's on there. Yeah, I don't see it. Make one more attempt here. There's another one from Inquirer on the 27th. That's the same. That's the same one. So I don't see it, but I wanted to see if I could find that one reference there. Alright, we're back to this. Lucy Thomas popped out Adrian from the photostat of an Inquirer front page dated April 27, 1943. Miss Thomas was identified as a Biltmore guest staying in the room adjoining Sophia's on the night of the murder. Thomas said she heard a man with a husky voice quarreling with Sophia shortly after midnight Easter morning. The words were mumbled, and I could hear what the quarrel was about. She was quoted as saying, finally, she couldn't hear, sorry. I was going to say, wow, I'd like to hear. So she couldn't hear what the quarrel was about. She was quoted as saying, finally, I heard a woman's voice say, you bastard. This was 2 seconds before I heard the first scream. Huh, that's kind of a weird statement. You know, for her to say, you bastard, that's like he did something to you that was offensive. This was 2 seconds before I heard the first scream. There was no mention of whether she recognized the male voice or whether it sounded like a white man or a black man. Though her statement seemed of critical importance, nothing more from Lucy Thomas turned up in the detective's case file, the newspaper articles, or the memories of the people that Adrian interviewed. The more Adrian discovered, Adrian's the brother of the victim, the more Adrian discovered, the less it seemed that Sophia was the random victim of a rapist or burglar. Brutal force was used in the murder, yet her underclothes hadn't been disturbed, as would certainly have been the case in an attempted rape. A young waitress living in a $25 a month room was no likely target for a robbery attempt, and would a hopeful robber ask directions to his victim's room? That and the fact that Sophia would have an extended argument with a man who had surprised her in the middle of the night rather than simply scream for help. Yeah, see, that's exactly right. All seem to point towards motive of a personal nature. Jealousy, revenge. I think it might be the revenge part. Fear or exposure. Maybe the revenge is for it because of exposure. All of them indicated a complicated sort of life that seemed beyond the Sophia Adrian had come to know through the descriptions of her friends. Had something been happening to Sophia that they hadn't seen? Adrian's wife suggested he might not really want to know. Mildred Sharp had been Sophia's best friend, yet she never contacted the Baird family after the murder. In 1979, Adrian found her running a family restaurant in Indiana with her second husband. He wrote, sending a 1941 picture of her in an Elk Valley basketball jersey. I wonder, what about the guy that she was on that date with? Could he have gone back in there? You remember how she went on the date with let's see, Mildred Sharp? It was Sophia and Mildred went on that date with Mildred's fiance and the fiance's brother, right? I think it was brother or best friend. You guys remember what that was? So what if that guy was really put off, like, you know, you ignored me the whole time, and he goes over there, and somehow it all got blamed on a black person. Because remember, the brother, the other guy was so angry he stayed in the car, right? And the brother walked her up. She walked Sophia back up to the room. Remember that? So why did, you know, the other guy must have been steaming mad, really angry. But was he so angry that he would kill somebody? Or maybe he went up there and said, hey, you know, I was nice to you all day. Now, you better put out, man, because I'm going to... And she's like, you bastard, what are you talking about? And then he's like, oh, screw you. You know, and he goes nuts because... I don't know. There's just so many, you know, there's about 1,000 things at this point. He wrote sending a 1941 picture of her in an Elk Valley basketball jersey and a family picture of himself as a boy. Let's see, hold up. In 1979, Adrian found her running a family restaurant in Indiana with her second husband. He wrote sending a 1941 picture of her in an Elk Valley basketball jersey and a family picture of himself as a boy. Mildred wrote back saying, Sophia was my dearest friend and offering to do anything she could to help. As it turned out, Mildred could only deepen the mystery. Oh boy, here we go. Oh boy. During the 10 months in Cincinnati, Mildred said, she and Sophia were inseparable. They did laundry, danced at Krause's, ate at the chili parlor, and worked together. Sophia was definitely not the kind of girl who would go with men for money or favors, Mildred insisted. Sophia didn't even drink, except for occasional sips of 2% beer, which is a Coors Light where you fill up half of it with water, okay? Which means there's almost nothing in there. In fact, Mildred didn't think she even had a very serious boyfriend. She didn't think that? I mean, you know, you would know exactly what was going on, right? I mean, you're best friends. In fact, Mildred didn't think she even had a very serious boyfriend. Well, I think you know she either had one or didn't, right? Now let's see if we can figure out with this picture really quick. You guys mind? This photo was taken on... Well, let me just keep going. I'm going to go... When we get to the end, we'll look and see if we can see that exact spot there. Mildred had been walking back from work at the Purple Cow around 1 a.m. that day. So there you go. She was working at the Purple Cow. I think Mary Poppins threw that in there. I was like, what do you mean Purple Cow? I couldn't remember that at all. Around 1 a.m. that day in 1943, someone ran up to her on the street and said something happened to Sophia. Mildred ran the 3 blocks to the hotel and found police cruisers, lights flashing at the curb, and Sophia's blood all over the hallway walls. The detectives said horrible things about Sophia, and they accused Mildred of horrible things too. They scared her to death as if she weren't frightened enough already. She was convinced that whoever killed Sophia would not rest until he had killed her. Mildred was too frightened to think straight. She was afraid for her life and afraid of her guilt. She knew she was guilty because Sophia was dead and she hadn't done anything to prevent it. She was too frightened even to call Sophia's family after the murder or ever. I'm just looking at that. Even now, running a restaurant in Indiana 36 years later, Mildred was afraid. When Adrian began to press Mildred for details of Sophia's last days and her relationship with the people at the hotel, Mildred became vague, then finally said, "I just don't remember like I should. I don't know why." Adrian felt certain there was something more Mildred could tell him, something only a best friend would know. He offered to finance sessions with hypnotists to jog Mildred's memory. She agreed. Oh, well, maybe that turned into something. Bob Mildred knew he'd really hit on something. Not bad for an old guy on a trail that had been cold for 37 years. Maury Zadens had been proprietor at the Gaiety Theater across Lippincott Alley from the Biltmore. He was almost 78 years old now, but still sharp as a tack. Making the rounds of his old acquaintances, Meldon looked Zadens up. There had scarcely been a better connected man in Cincinnati. Zadens knew everybody. Mostly Meldon wanted to ask what he had known about Lou Bezena. As it turned out, he knew a lot. The night of the murder, a Saturday, Zadens was standing out in Lippincott Alley around midnight. He had heard, he had a clear view of the back door of the Biltmore, but he didn't see any black man covered with blood coming flying out of the door. He saw Lou Bezena come out the back door of the Biltmore. Then turned down the alley towards Vine Street. All right, let's see where Vine Street is, just to see what side we're talking about. Jeez, really? We have to... Okay, that's Vine Street, this big one here. Yep, still Vine right there. Vine. Okay, so that's Vine Street. Kind of makes you think that there used to be a building right there. That's pretty creepy right there. What do you mean the sound's off? You guys can't hear anything? What do you mean the sound's off? The night of the murder, a Saturday, Zadens was standing out on Lippincott Alley around midnight. He had a clear view of the back door of the Biltmore, but he didn't see any black man covered with blood coming flying out of the door. He saw Lou Bezena come out the back door of the Biltmore, then turn down the alley towards Vine Street. Maury knew Lou was a con man, much like one of these YouTubers out here, and a heroin addict, and he didn't like him. Still, he would have thought nothing of it except that just minutes later, squad cars came screaming and flashing up to Biltmore. "What's the trouble?" Zadens asked. "There's been a murder. A girl's throat was cut," one of the officers said. "Ooh, Jesus," Zadens said. He remembered what the showgirls who lived at the Biltmore had been talking about. They said Lou was crazy about the little country girl named Sophia. Oh yeah, what was that phrase that was used up there? What did she say again? She said, bastard. Huh. Now that sounds like something she might say to a guy like Lou, right? Some old guy, hey, oh God, I could totally see that. It said Lou was crazy about the little country girl named Sophia. Not long after a police detective named Mac Hall came by, Hall was looking for Zaydens. He wanted to blow off steam to an old friend. It seemed there had been a small fire in the Biltmore's furnace. Someone was burning what looked like a pile of clothes. Like maybe the clothes Lou was wearing? Someone was burning what looked like a pile of clothes. So who saw this? Mac Hall came by. Hall was looking for Zaydens. He wanted to blow off steam to an old friend. It seemed there had been a small fire in the Biltmore's furnace. Someone was burning what looked like a pile of clothes. The back steps, the killer's escape route, led right to the furnace. But none of the officers on the scene thought to drag it out. The day had been warm, near 80. At midnight, the temperature hovered about 60 degrees. Who would have wanted a fire in the furnace on a night like that? Maybe someone whose clothes were bloody. There you go. They'd never know. By the time someone got around to checking the furnace, there were only ashes. After a couple days, things around the investigation got hush-hush, Zaydens told Mildred. There was a lot of beefing because they didn't take Lou and question him. One of the detectives, or somebody made the crack that Lou was so full of junk they'd only have to hold him 24 hours and he would have wanted it so bad he'd tell us anything. So this is Zaydens right here. He was the proprietor of the gate. He was standing outside of Limpicott Alley around midnight, the night of the murder. He saw Lou Bezena come out of the back door of the Biltmore, then turn down the alley towards Vine Street. So let's see if we can sort of just see where that picture is. I'll try to do it and then I'll show you back. Taken on 8th Street, looking northwest from Walnut. Okay. Let's see where Walnut is. That's Walnut. And looking northwest, it would be like that, right? Yeah. So I think, that's the, well, basically, I think if you go one more step this way, you could almost get the shot. Let's see. No. It doesn't look anything like it anymore. But this is on Walnut Street. That's 8th. I'm on Walnut. Facing northwest is about like that. And so that would be this right here. So that means that's the burlesque is right here. See that? You can actually see the term on the, it says like Gaiety Burlesque right there. So obviously it's completely different now. It doesn't look like that at all. So it used to be right here, I guess. Alright, so now it's really starting to point towards, somebody at the hotel, law enforcement maybe covering it up for him because he's sort of, he's got a lot of information on the police, right? This Lou guy. Because the cops were using the hotel to be with sex workers themselves, right? So it seems like it's like this quid quo pro for everybody. Who's Ella? I don't even know who Ella is at this point. Tying the... Wait, hold on. That's not the one I wanted. That's the second page of it. All right, here we go. Here we go. I don't think... Her name was Ella? What are you talking about? I thought it was something like Mary. Ma. It was Ma. And Ma and Lou were the owners, right? And then Mary... Or maybe it was... Ah, shit, I can't remember now. Oh, Ma. Okay, I called her Ma, not Ella. Alright. So chapter 5, tying the threads together. Is the music too loud, or should I turn it up to drown? Yeah, and then, but Lou's married to Mary. I forgot what the husband of Ma name was, but. What do you mean you don't hear music? How do you not hear music? Can you hear it now? Yeah, I know it's too loud, but how can somebody say they can't hear it? I mean, it's... Oh, okay, yeah, well, maybe you need to turn up your volume a little bit. Man, you guys are crazy. Yeah, I got it back to 10 again. There we go. That's 10. All right, here we go. When Adrian Baird interviewed Mildred Sharp, so this is again the brother of Sophia, and he's interviewing Mildred Sharp, the best friend that Sophia went to Cincinnati with. And that's really why the parents were okay with it, because they felt like, you know, if she went with a friend, everything would be fine. Okay, so when Adrian Baird interviewed Mildred Sharp again, he found that the sessions with the hypnotist had brought some interesting results. Mildred began to remember. In the months before the murder, Sophia Baird had gone through a change. Mildred noticed that beginning in the early spring of 1943, Sophia, normally bright disposition, would suddenly sour. And we heard about that on that trip she took that night, or that day. I think maybe it was a weekend, I can't remember, but she went with those, with Mildred's fiance, remember that? Mildred noticed that beginning in the early spring of 1943, so right around the time she was murdered, actually, Sophia's normally bright disposition would suddenly sour. She'd act frightened, but she wouldn't want to talk about it. The most dramatic episode Mildred remembered was the time when Sophia got the shakes, right, this is that moment, after coming back to their room at the Biltmore. She just kept shaking and crying and said she thought she wouldn't live much longer. So she remembers the same damn thing. Well, that's probably where that came from, actually, is her memory. Once again, Adrian pressed Mildred for details. Had someone assaulted Sophia in the hotel? Could it have been Lou Bezena? Mildred would say maybe, and once Adrian said she told him, yes, Lou had bothered Sophia in his room. What do you mean, in his room? Mildred would say maybe, and once Adrian said let's see. Mildred would say, maybe, and once Adrian said, she told him yes. So Adrian, the brother, said that one time Mildred said yes, Lou had bothered Sophia in his room. But now she says Sophia never mentioned anyone specifically. She was just scared of someone. See, I think Mildred knows exactly what the deal is. But she's scared herself now. And probably for the same reason that Adrian is scared, because remember, he got those phone calls. And I bet you Mildred has probably received plenty of phone calls that she never admits to, right? Adrian asked Mildred if Sophia might have been entangled in prostitution. Definitely not, Mildred said. She was absolutely not that kind of girl. Yet there were some things that didn't fit easily in Mildred's memory. Sophia could sometimes be out late without her, and when she came home, she'd just say she'd been out with some friends. Mildred could see she didn't want to elaborate. Mildred noticed that Sophia often had new leather shoes and stylish clothes that were hard to get in wartime. Sophia would say, "A friend got them for me." Yeah, that's crazy. Once Mildred and Sophia were out for a walk. A car with 3 men Mildred had never seen before pulled to the curb a little way up the street. They yelled for Sophia to come to them. Sophia walked to the car and leaned towards the window. They spoke for a few minutes, but Mildred couldn't hear what they were saying. As Sophia walked away, one of the men yelled, "You better be there." What did they mean? Mildred asked her when the car had squealed off down the street. Nothing, Sophia said. They're just some friends. Nah, it's got to be something, because you would tell your best friend if it was something fun. It wasn't something fun that you had to be there for. Another time, Sophia had been scared, and again, she wouldn't say why. She wanted Mildred to come with her to the beauty parlor, only she didn't want her to come inside. What does spork have to do with anything that we're talking about? Let me see. Another time Sophia had been scared, and again she would say why. She wouldn't say why. She wanted Mildred to come with her to the beauty parlor. So she wanted her best friend to go with her to the beauty parlor, only she didn't want her to come inside. Mildred waited across the street for Sophia to come out. She remembers the way they fixed her hair that day because someone took a photograph. She remembers the way she fixed her hair that day because someone took a photograph. She was like pretty. She was like pretty girl. She was like a pretty little girl. Mildred said, all dressed up to go somewhere special. I'll always think of Sophia like that. The new shoes, the new dress, the new hairdo, and the unhappy face in that photograph. I know, it's weird. Yeah, that's exactly right. Like, why wouldn't she want her to go in to the hair parlor? It seemed like there was something else going on. Let me go back to that right here. Another time, Sophia had been scared, and again, she wouldn't say why. She wanted Mildred to come with her to the beauty parlor, only she didn't want her to come inside. Mildred waited across the street for Sophia to come out. She remembers the way they fixed her hair that day because someone took a photograph. I don't know. Maybe she was into like sexual, like taking Playboy type stuff. Maybe she wasn't a sex worker, but she was taking pictures and those people were in there and they would have been talking about that, and she didn't want Mildred to hear that part of the conversation, even though it really was I don't know. I'm just throwing out some ideas. That does seem really bizarre, right? Very strange. I'll always think of Sophia like that. The new shoes, the new dress, the new hairdo, and the unhappy face in that photograph. Sophia with Melvin. This is the guy that I think probably saw her off at the... Remember when she got on the... I think either the bus or the train, and he was like, don't leave, and he was going off to the military, but she was heading to Cincinnati. See, that's 1941. I bet you that guy right there, Melvin, is the guy that went off to the military. And he's even got the military hat on there. Much had cleared in Mildred's mind, but there was something else. Something so strange and dark it seemed almost more a dream than a memory. Uh-oh. Oh, gee. This is crazy. She was supposed to meet Sophia at a chili parlor. When she had been waiting for some time, a man and a woman came to her table and said, Sophia wanted us to tell you she wouldn't be able to make it. So Mildred was sitting waiting for her, and then some other random people came up and said, hey, Sophia wanted us to tell you she wouldn't be able to make it. Is something wrong? Mildred asked. No, the man said. She's fine. They invited Mildred back to their apartment. Mildred sat on the couch, and the woman handed her something to drink. As she sipped, it was as if a bright light exploded before her eyes. I was actually worried about that when they invited her over. This whole thing that's coming up right here. She heard the man say she wouldn't be any good at it. When she woke, it was morning. The man and the woman were nowhere to be seen. Bob Melden had expected Mary Bezena to be dead or untraceable in one of a million. Hey, now, you know what? You know what's crazy, everybody? Listen to this. Swerve's crazy theory had a note of something in this last little bit right here. Right? There's a little bit of something in Swerve's theory right here. Not saying quite yet, but, you know, there was a little bit of a development there. Let's see. So Meldon drove out there, remembering the petite beauty Mary had been 40 years ago. But when the door to the box-like apartment swung open, let me go back up here. Bob Meldon, that's that detective, had expected Mary Bezena to be dead or untraceable in one of a million identical retirement communities in Florida. But when they fed her name into the computer, never mind whose computer, Meldon was maybe retired, but he has his sources. The address that appeared when the computer quit clicking was in Cincinnati. I bet you Dan went and read the rest of this. That's why he jumped in with, you mean like a roofie? You know, something like that? Meldon drove out there, remembering the petite beauty Mary had been 40 years ago. But when the door to the box-like apartment swung open, a fat old lady in a ratty pink bathrobe greeted him. Meldon worked up to it fast, breezing through some old times. Let's see. Meldon worked up to it fast, breezing through some old times. Meldon drove out there, remembering the petite beauty Mary had been 40 years ago. But when the door to the box-like apartment swung open, a fat old lady in a ratty pink bathrobe greeted him. Meldon worked up to it fast, breezing through some old times chatter, then brought up this strange little guy who had it in his head to find out about the Sophia Baird case. Remember the Sophia Baird case? Anyway, he went on telling her this strange little guy is Sophia's brother. And everyone's dead. And of course, nobody cares anymore. But listen, Mary, this is between God and you and me. Tell me the story on it, Mary. Mary, who had been slumped in her seat, practically snapped straight back. She understood what he was getting at. Well, there is no story on it. There never was. Over the next few months, Mildred returned to the tiny apartment a half dozen times, usually with a six-pack. Mary would always be there in her bathrobe. She seemed glad for the company, though. Mildred always wanted to talk about Sophia Baird. Oh, wow! You have to teach me that, Dan. Maybe in your next rap, write a rap rap for my show, where you're discussing girl code and how to interpret it. All right. Well, there's no story on it. There never was. Over the next few months, Mildred returned to the tiny apartment a half dozen times, usually with a six-pack. Mary would always be there in her bathrobe. She seemed glad for the company, though. Mildred always wanted to talk about Sophia Baird, asking some pretty pointed questions, too. Mildred would switch on the micro cassette recorder in his shirt pocket just before he knocked on the door. From the beginning, Mary stuck with the same story she had told police in 1943. She'd seen a black man running down the back stairs. She said she looked right at him. The odd thing was, she said, as she saw him frozen in her memory, his clothes were clean. Not one drop of blood on him. Yeah, well, that can't happen. Mildred was always glad to get out of the depressing little apartment. She's a damn liar, he'd tell Adrian when he saw him. Adrian's wife had transcribed the tapes, and Adrian had listened to them again with the transcripts in his hand to make sure they were accurate. Then he and Mildred pored over the transcripts. They were looking for any little thread that, if tugged, might unravel the astonishing smoothness of the story. What they found was a list of contradictions. In 1943, Ma Bezena had told police that when they heard the screams, both she and Mary had run up the stairs. Okay, let's see that again. In 1943, Ma Bezena, the owner, had told police that when they heard the screams, both she and Mary, the I think daughter-in-law, had run up the stairs. Now Mary told Mildred that Ma hadn't been up those stairs for 20 years, much less run. In 1980, Mary told Mildred, the detective, that after Fred Proctor, the hotel handyman, sighted the prowler, she and Proctor had searched every room in the hotel, even bathrooms. When they found nothing, Mary said, they went back downstairs until Sophia screamed. But Mary's 1943 statement said nothing about a search. And if they had made a search, why hadn't they started with the room that the prowler asked for minutes before the murder, Mrs. Beard's room? Or Baird, but he pronounced it Beard. In 1943, both Mary and Lou told police that after Mary saw the black man running down the stairs, Lou had gone out to check the back entrance. Okay, so 1943, Mary and Lou told the police that after Mary saw the black man running down the stairs, Lou, and that's the son of Ma, had gone out to check the back entrance and the alley. In 1980, however, Mary told Mildred that Lou had slept through the whole thing. Oh, gee. See, didn't I tell you guys yesterday that we'll take care of it? We'll just get a story together. Adrian knew as well as anyone that memory is an imperfect instrument. After 37 years, it can be as changeable as mercury. But what really got to him was how definite Mary had sounded. Nobody else he'd interviewed could remember specifics with as much confidence as Mary had. In fact, whether Mary was repeating her 1943 account or contradicting it, her confidence was unflagging. What do you think, Meldon? What do you think, Meldon? Adrian asked. I think we may have something, Meldon said. Meldon visited Mary one last time. This time, he was going for broke. He kidded her long enough now. Besides, now he had something to bargain with. Look, Mary, he told her almost as soon as she'd let him in. I know how we can make us a piece of change. He watched Mary's face while he told her that Adrian Baird had put up a $10,000 reward for anyone who could say what happened. Her expression didn't flicker. Then he said, though he was lying at the statute of limitations had run out and nobody could be prosecuted, still no response. So he lied about murder doesn't have a statute of limitations. But he told her that to see if she would say something. You're living on Social Security, Mary, Meldon said finally. His voice was a little shriller than he would have liked. You need that money. Tell the story. Mary's pallid face turned a hot pink. Not that my Louis. No, they'd never get me to say that. Oh boy, that sounds like something. So this one's a third pager, so let's see. Wow, it goes all the way over to here. All right. Yeah, are you guys still paying attention in there? Seems like you guys are just all over something completely random. I know it's not interesting to you, Jennifer, but let's try to everybody kind of, it seems like a pretty interesting story. Yeah. All right, so here we go. Let me go back to the page before. Oh, here we come. Here comes the snapback from Jennifer. Here we go. Here we go. And we around the corner, in around the corner. I mean, how do you guys get onto those crazy topics when there's such an interesting story here? Let's see. Yeah, very two different drugs. At least you didn't know which shows were innocent. Only if they're whiskey in it. I drink Dr. Pepper. Blah blah blah. I never did either drug personally, but I'm not. Yeah. See, the thing is, when you're having those conversations, you can't actually hear some of the details. That's the truth. You say, "Oh, I can do it at the same." No, you can't. Because as you're typing and formulating your comment, you're not actually listening. That's the thing. Yeah. So Mary's pallid face turned a hot pink. Not that my Louis... No. They'll never get me to say that. So it's like she almost started saying something and then didn't. Well, I've been watching the comments the whole way. You don't really ever seem that interested. Yeah. A lot of goofy smiles, dancing, all kinds of shit going on up there. That's why I say that, because I actually see, every time I look up, I look for something that's related to the show, and it's never actually happens. All right, Mildred was down to his last card. He looked straight at her. Lou was a con man, and you know that as well as I do. Lou would want you to tell Mary. He'd want you to take that money. She straightened in the stuffed chair and smoothed the robe with both hands. Sure, he was for a con, Mary said. He was a good con man. Yeah, like they exist, right? Yeah, I just find it kind of shocking that when I looked up, I was just reading for so long, and I looked up and there was so much unrelated stuff, and it's like, man, my God, this is one of the most interesting stories you're going to find, and it was 1984, and I'm just reading it for you guys. I can just post you guys the links, and you can go read it yourself. But I thought it'd be interesting to go over the show, you know, on a show. She straightened it in the stuffed chair. So she straightened up. She sat up in her robe, both hands. Sure, he was for a good con, Mary said. He was a good con man. Now, do you mean like he was a good person as a con man, or just really good at conning? Because I don't think there's such a thing as a good person that's a con man, right? We know that by the YouTubers that are out there that are just like that. He was a good con man, but even if I'd seen him do it, I wouldn't tell. Mildred moved closer, his voice low and confidential. How much would you tell it for? 500,000? Not for anything, Mary said. Never. Well, see, that means she knows it. See, right there, it means that she knows it. Thanks, Barbara Smith. But right there, that's admitting, I wouldn't tell it for anything, Mary said. Never. So what she's really admitting right there, that she knows that what the answer is. Ta-da-da.
Thank you ever so much.
On May 12, 1981, a police cruiser pulled up outside the apartments at 2301 Auburn Avenue. The officers found the mailbox for number 12 full of mail. Through the locked front door, they could hear the TV. They called the fire department for a ladder to reach a rear window, which, upon finding it locked, they smashed. Mary Bezena, dressed in her pink bathrobe, lay face down in an easy chair, cold and stiff. After Mildred's last visit, almost a year earlier, a Cincinnati attorney named James N. Perry had written a letter suggesting that any further questions for Miss Bezena be communicated through him. Wow, so she actually went out and actually got an attorney. A big get-together. Oh, you mean like a gray con? Give me a break. A CrimeCon. Yeah, they should get rid of the word con on CrimeCon, don't you think? Well, you know, it would be perfect for some of those YouTubers, though. They go to CrimeCon so they can do exactly that. So that's crazy. So she got an attorney, and she knew at that point that he was zeroing in, and her story wasn't holding up anymore. And then boom, right? So Mary Bezena, dressed in her pink bathrobe, lay face down in an easy chair, cold and stiff. She was dead. And her attorney said, anything else you want to say would have gone through me. Now Adrian Baird read this message from Perry. Today, we were advised by the Hamilton County Coroner's Office that Mary Bezena was found dead in her apartment. She died of natural causes. With her death, the final chapter of the Sophia Baird matter seems to have been written. Yeah. On the phone, Perry would say only that in all the contacts with Mary, she had insisted throughout that she had told the truth about Sophia. On the phone, Perry would say only that in all the yeah, well, of course she would tell him that. Adrian cannot believe that. Well, she admitted it right here. She wouldn't tell the truth for anything. Right there. But even if he knew for sure that Mary had been lying, that the hotel staff did conspire to protect the murderer, that still left the disturbing question of motive. Why had his sister been killed? Well, maybe he tried to force himself on her. But there's all those other weird things too, right? Adrian felt that he'd taken it as far as he could. He wrote up his notes and produced a report, the last witness for the surviving members of his family. Some he heard later couldn't even bring themselves to read it. He had done his best. He'd even found what he considered to be persuasive circumstantial evidence pointing to the murder, and at the very least a certain ineptitude in the original investigation. But after 5 years, 10,000 miles of travel, and $20,000, Adrian still felt there had to be more. A year later, a letter came to his office. It was postmarked Cincinnati, poorly typed on an old manual typewriter and corrected in pen. The letter was I think it says semi-literal or literate, semi-literate. Man, that dash just I couldn't read it together. So the letter was semi-literate. It said, "If you offer money, you will find out the truth who killed your sister. If you offer to the right person, I could tell you more, but can't." Immediately after the word "can't," someone had begun to type "because," then scratched it out. It was signed a friend, B. Cochran, but had no return address. There was, of course, no B. Cochran in the Cincinnati City Directory. This story has all these weird, the phone calls, the letters, the craziness. In the spring of 1984, the thick file of notes, transcripts, correspondence, and photographs found its way to the desk of a reporter for the Cincinnati Enquirer. In all, it contained about 500 pages of documents. Feeling the heft of it, the reporter's limited interest in a 41-year-old murder rapidly dwindled. Besides, it was a Friday afternoon and a beautiful day. He was about to toss the file into the junkyard at the bottom of his deepest desk drawer when an old photograph slipped out. A pretty young woman stretched out on a metal slab in the city morgue, her clothes and hair soaked with blood. He sat down at the desk and began to read. When he looked up at the clock, 45 minutes had passed. His eyes hurt. He put the file under his arm and walked 2 blocks to the public library. If he was going to read the grim stuff, he figured, he might as well do it in pleasant surroundings. Throbbed with business-suited legions spilling from the glittering office towers, attractive people in evening clothes tipped lightly along the sidewalks towards fine restaurants and ferny bars. The moneyed ease and the glorious spring sun combined to make the sleazy Cincinnati described in the bundle of papers beneath his arm seem as unlikely fiction. At the library, he found the reading garden empty. The breeze was warm, and the splatter of the fountain made him forget where he was. When he had read through the stack, it was nearly dark. He took out the photos again and stared at one of the blonde girls standing beside a waterfall. Behind her stood a young man in uniform. She'd seemed almost unaware of him, but he stood grimly aware of nothing but her. He gripped her arms firmly, as if he were afraid she'd get away. The reporter studied her face, the tilt to her head, the wistful smile forming on her lips. He wondered how anyone could have wanted to tear away the life from those sad, heavy-lidded eyes, and he couldn't help seeing her again on the cold metal slab in the dingy hotel hallway, beckoning with her last strength. He shivered then, because suddenly he knew where he was. 41 years before, directly above this garden, with its carefully tended flowers and dancing fountain, Sophia Baird bled to death on the third-floor landing of the Biltmore Hotel. The end. That's crazy. I think the page before has that image he was just talking about. Right there. Yeah. Man, like he was like, oh my god, she's amazing. But she just looks like, yeah, I just want to get a photograph. So what do you guys think then? Man, I don't know what the hell you were talking about up there, Susanna, when you said she was pregnant. Like it was a fact. You don't have a clue, okay? I mean, just say, what if she was pregnant or something? And then she said, you're a bastard. It didn't say anywhere in this story that she was pregnant. And it seems like that would have been one of the things that would have been brought up by this person who wrote this. I wonder if the author's even still alive. I mean, this is 37 years ago, right? So, I mean, if the author was 40, that's getting pretty old at that point. Anyways, I thought that was pretty interesting. It's weird. So there wasn't any more about the roofie, though, Swerves. Sorry about that. Yeah, it was very cool. This must, I think that he was referring to himself at the end there. I think it's kind of obvious. He's the guy that read the 500 pages and then put together this series based on that. It would have been cool if he had said what his circumstantial case was. I bet it was Lou, though. He seemed like he kind of implied that it was Lou. And I think that Lou's Mary, his wife, knew the answer, just didn't want to say it. Don't you think? Came and tells me, Mary. Yeah, and didn't this Cochran guy leave a note like on their deathbed or something? If they're not alive. I mean, you'd think that person, a friend. What do you mean a friend? You weren't a friend at all. You didn't say shit, If you offer money, you will find out the truth, who killed your sister. If you offer to the right person, I could tell you more but can't. Right, so what do you mean the right person? Maybe that person thought that Mary would, and maybe that person knew, well, no, was this after Mary though, this part? No, a year later. Yeah, so that was after Mary died. But maybe that person didn't know that Mary died. And then thought that if he gave money to Mary that she would say something, but Mary wouldn't. So that's a possibility, right? That maybe, Mary's dead, but this guy didn't know that Mary died. Because maybe he lives somewhere else now. I could tell you more, but can't. Immediately after the word can't, someone had begun to type because, then scratched it out. It was signed, a friend, B. Cochran. So all they really wrote was, if you offer to the right person, I could tell you but more, but can't. A friend, B. Cochran. Well, that's not being a friend at all. It's being an asshole. Like he would rather not have known there was somebody out there that knew something. You're just kind of torturing him, right? Hell, maybe I'll get an email now. Because we're sort of continuing the legacy. Yeah, I wonder if this guy, this 1984 guy who wrote this, got any letters. The author here. And the author of this is named Tom Shroder. And he's probably he's the guy that read the entire massive stack. Yeah. Well, anyways, for those of you who paid attention and followed along, I hope you guys thought it was interesting. I thought it was pretty cool. I think it's hard when people just kind of pop in and out every, 30 minutes and they're not really into it, so they want to talk about other things, and then it sort of makes people feel bad if they don't want to converse, and then, so they'll start doing it, and then they sort of lose track, miss some of the key points. Yeah, it's weird. It seems like it was like almost a mafia, right? Why did you hide Joel's gotta sew? Sorry about that, Joel's. You got accidentally hidden on accident. Happens every once in a while. No problem, Jennifer. Well, cool. Well, I'm glad you guys liked it. Yeah, it was kind of a weird... I was going over that entire case, and then all of a sudden this one popped up at the very end when I got over to 1980s. I went and found all the original stories. And then I wasn't sure, but I thought it was better to go read the first articles that actually existed at the time to sort of get the feel of it. And then I hadn't even, I don't read any of these beforehand because I like to have the excitement of discovery at the time. It's kind of boring when you're, maybe if other cases that I'm constantly working on, I don't do that. But like if the Delphi case, I don't, I'm going to do it on my own and figure something out and then come forward with it. Yeah, I think Mary's shady too, though. I think they all are. I think it was basically like a mob family running the hotel in Cincinnati at the time when it was very much like New Orleans or something like that. It was kind of like a mix between Chicago and New Orleans, right? You had all these people in the police force that would get rooms there, kind of look the other way. It's pretty crazy. Yeah, I'm sure it was a cover-up. I think it was just a cover-up by the people that worked there, and the police were willing to look the other way at the time because the hotel had dirt on all of them, right? You know, so it's kind of like, listen, you don't say anything, we won't say anything. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Thank you, Barbara Smith. Yeah. Right, exactly.
Truly, you are brilliant.
Oh, I had to hear that loud, so I had to come back. Thank you, Barbara. Yeah, nah. I have to do the Don Knotts. What? You know. Those things about Sophia, though, were very interesting. You know, the car that pulled up. There was something going on that she was doing. And it just... something was going on. Something was going on. Why would she say to somebody, you bastard? See, you bastard is when you do something to somebody that is, like, really disrespectful or, you know, like if you pulled out a knife, you wouldn't say to somebody, you bastard, right? Do you get what I'm saying? Well, like, when would you think somebody would say, you bastard? Thank you, Sarita. When would you guys say, you bastard? Yeah, right, betrayal. That's exactly right. Yep. So let's hear what else people think. When somebody says to somebody, you bastard, yeah, you got betrayal, insulting. What else? Nah, people don't say you bastard when you're getting robbed. You're scared to death at that point. There was something that happened before the scream that was more like the betrayal or insulting. I don't know which one it is. Yeah, it could be something like that. A sexual attempt, too. Like you're grabbing her, and she completely says, you bastard, and starts screaming and screaming. Or whatever she was doing, yelling. And then he goes, oh, how do I shut her up? And where does he stab her? Was it? Now I don't remember if she was the one. She wasn't the one stabbed in the neck. Let me go back to the description of that. I think that was on chapter 2, right? No, maybe it was 3. I know her neck was slashed. See, there you go. That's the bed right there with blood all over it. And then she goes out in the hall, and there's literally just a ton of blood. Look at this picture right here. All of this right here is blood, arterial blood spray. Just, I think she was bleeding, stumbled out in the hall, and it just started firing out, and then she collapsed in this corner over here and died right as the police got there, right? And she wasn't, there was no sexual assault on her either. pretty blonde waitress was brutally stabbed and slashed to death. Okay, is it in there again? Piece of physical evidence at the murder scene was a trail of blood. See, that was an interesting part too, remember? That the trail of blood, listen, the trail of blood went right from the room out a complicated maze without any hesitation, and guess who would know how to do that perfectly? Can we all say it at the same time? And it's Lou, right? Lou knew exactly how to get out of there, and he was seen leaving the building. Remember? I think that's where you get the circumstantial evidence. Yeah, Lou was the one that did it, but Susanna, earlier you said she was pregnant. Where did you come up with that crap? You just sort of said it like it was a fact. You know you can't do that, right? You got to say, what if she was pregnant or something? He cited himself? Huh? Yeah, so he would know exactly how to get out. Anybody else would be stumbling around the hall trying to figure out how to get the hell out of there. But this person knew exactly how to get out. So that would be somebody very familiar with the hotel, right? So there you go. You have Lou going out the back door, and the individual that was outside saw Lou going out, not a black man with blood all over him. And then Lou knows everything about the hotel, so he would have taken off his bloody clothes and put it into the furnace where somebody was, I think, who was waiting to speak to somebody else, not Lou, saw it burning in there, but the police didn't take it out. Thanks, Joel's got a soul. Yeah.
Thank you, Gray.
So one of the few solid pieces of physical evidence discovered at the murder scene was a trail of blood, first from the bed to Sophia's room. First from the bed in Sophia's room, where she had been attacked, to the landing where she died. So she probably, I think he already left the room but had blood on him. I don't think he was lingering out there. I think he was long gone, and then she tried to get out to get help and collapsed in the same area. But it was from the bed to Sophia's room, where she had been attacked, to the landing where she died, then from the body through an unmarked rear exit. So it was actually a room that had looked like a hotel room, down a back stairway used only by hotel staff. To reach the back exit door, it was necessary to first enter an inconspicuous door marked only with an apartment number. Yet the blood trail went to it without hesitation. So that's a big deal. That means it's... yeah, I don't think there was either. I think we've all kind of decided that, Gene. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know, Susanna. It doesn't really make a lot. I mean, I don't know. Would she have actually... I mean, the roommate did say that there was a time where... I don't know. Wouldn't that have been in the autopsy, though? That information is not out there. No, yeah, it's just what Kim just said, too. Right. And so, I mean, I could see what you might be saying, because the roommate said that there was an incident. Maybe the incident was a little bit more, and he actually assaulted Sophia, and he threatened... I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe he tried a few different times, and then on this night, knowing that she was alone, he tried even harder to be with her, you know, to have her say, okay, go ahead, you know, or whatever he was looking for. And she said, "No way, you bastard." And then he pulls out the knife and kills her because now he doesn't want her to ruin, his relationship or anything like that. I just assumed she meant bastard. I don't know. I don't think she was pregnant at all. That's just wild speculation with no information suggesting it whatsoever. I guess you could say, her saying bastard was like, he said, you're gonna have an abortion or I'm gonna kill you. And she goes, "You bastard." And then he kills her because she wasn't gonna have an abortion. But there was no abortion back then, right? That was with the back alley crap with the hangers and shit. I mean, it was sick. I don't know. You have to assume way too much to get to that speculation, Susanna. Unfortunately, there's really nothing else to suggest that. So, hey, Swerves, we almost had an angle working back into your theory, but they never continued. So, we don't know. But it is interesting. It sounds like that the roommate was drugged, and they were gonna maybe try some sexual something on her, and said, "Oh, she wouldn't be good at it." And did they do anything to her? I wonder if she felt like something happened to her after, when she woke up. Did she feel she'd been assaulted? I think most people would know, right? Well, hey, but Swerves, you were getting pretty... It was... For a minute there, I was like, hey, we're dusting off the Swerves. Almost totally out there comment, because they did talk about something that seemed similar to what you were saying. Yeah, you would know, right? Yeah. Now, the roommate wanted the ink. Yeah, the part about leaving the door unlocked is a bit weird, right? But the door was unlocked the first time the lady, the one that lived down the hall, went over there to get the iron. She just walked in and woke her up. And then she left, and then she went back later with the door still unlocked and got some ink, and then then just left that time without waking her up. Yeah, that part's a little strange. But it is what it is, that is what it was. I mean, it's strange to us in today's world, but maybe just being in the hotel, she felt safe. Okay? Maybe that's where she felt safe and didn't really think about it. I mean, we wouldn't do that 100%, right? Maybe she thought the hotel was secure. It seemed like people knew who should be there and who shouldn't be. And yeah, who knows? All right, I'm getting out of here. Another 2 hours. After a 2-hour show earlier, another 4 hours. All right, so thank you guys for showing up. I was hoping that those two last chapters would be interesting, and they were. It was perfect. It was like, boom. A lot of stuff in there. That should be a movie or something, I think. It feels like that should be... Something should be done with that. And I think that would... If you made a movie out of that, you might get the answer from somebody out there. There are people who know the answer to this still out there today. This would make a great movie. You could do the whole part about everything that was in that. You could, then do your freelancing and put the rest of the story in there, but use everything that was in that 5-part series in the movie, and it would be really fascinating. And maybe even do it where you have the brother is sort of like he's narrating it, and then flashbacks go to all the different things that happened, and then back to him. And then you go to sort of the present time, which would have been 1980 when he's talking to the detective, and he's talking to Mary, and get those interviews and kind of reenact what she said. Those were all tape recorded, so you could get every freaking word that she said. I would love to see the actual transcript of those conversations with Mary, in the current time. And you could have that whole thing, reenact the scenes. Yeah. All kinds of stuff in there. Her being moved out of her grave somewhere else. A lot of stuff going on. Yeah, it's wild. I think that could easily be a script. And not for TV. I'm talking about in the theaters. It'd be pretty good. Yep. Well, Thursday night, another one bites the dust. Right, Blue? Come here, Blue. Come here, buddy. Say hi to everybody. Come on, Blue. Come on, buddy. Ugh. Oh, well, blue. Say hello to everybody. Come on, Blue. See how he does that when he buries his head under your chin like that? See, that's what he did the first time. When I first met him, he jumped in my lap and then he put his head under my chin. And then, literally 1 second later, I said, "Up! We are going to keep him." Yeah. All right, Blue. Say hello to everybody. Hey. Yep. There he is, laying down again. Yep, Blue's the mascot. Chloe's kind of like, yeah, there's Chloe. Blue is an OG, right? He's been around the whole time. So, all right, everybody. Thank you guys very much. Appreciate it. I don't know. I don't mean to always get on everybody's case when you're not, but it is when there's a story that interesting and you look up and people aren't, let's say engaged in it. It's a little bit disheartening. I've said that a million times. It's hard for me to ever get to the spot where I can just go, just do whatever, talk about whatever you want, because I kind of look over to you guys for the motivation to keep discussing it. So when you look over and you get you're talking about she was stabbed 27 times. And there was a blood trail down the hall. And then I look over at the comments, and there's 3 smiley face rolling on the floor laughing. A bunch of dancers going like this. And, you know, it's that's where it gets a little bit like, wow. Okay. Huh. Interesting. So that's what I'm talking about. You don't have to. Nobody has to say sorry, everybody. I'm just saying how I feel when I see that. You know. So you guys can do whatever the hell you want to do. Yeah, no. Most of you are listening. That's why a lot of people aren't commenting, because they're listening. But unfortunately, a lot of people sometimes that are commenting get sidetracked, and those are the only people I can see. You know, maybe what I should have is a Zoom call with everybody, all 100 people, call in at the same time. And then we just know at that point, I don't know. No, that's not true. If you're actually having a conversation with somebody, you can't actually listen. You can hear, but you can't listen and sort of interpret what somebody's saying. Like, you couldn't literally be going, oh, well, hey, this one time I went to the store and I caught this guy and he was running around with, you know, I was doing this and that and the other thing. And then I'm talking about something. There's no way in hell that you can actually, you hear it, sure. You might even be able to, in your mind, repeat phrases, but you weren't listening, okay? And that's just the truth. You might want to argue it, but I know that for a fact. Yep, especially when the trolls are in. Yeah, one time at band camp, huh? What'd you do at band camp? One time? At band camp? No. You can't have 2 thoughts at once. I can't, because when you have a thought, that's the thought you have. Yeah, but either way, if you're one of the skilled people that can do that, great. I just don't think it's going to ever be that. I mean, listen, when your teacher, let's say you're at school and the teacher is putting on a lecture and you're texting somebody over and over again and you're not paying attention, you think you really heard everything that the teacher said and you're all on top of it? I don't think so. You might hear a few words and maybe catch on enough, but you might have missed a couple of the details that made a bigger difference. Yeah, that was it called American Pie? That was a good movie, though. Yeah. That was funny. It was pretty crazy, though. No, you comment, but comment about the show, you know? Zozo, you ever thought of doing that? Like what we're actually talking about? Instead of giggling and putting dancing characters on the screen? Yeah, it might make a difference. Because there was nothing funny about anything that we were... You know, when we stop and we go on the asides, maybe, but when we're actually having the actual conversation about the case, you know, there's really nothing funny or giggly in there. So that's where it gets strange, you know. Yeah, most listen don't even read, yeah. I mean, on a regular show, it's not as big a deal, but when you're reading something, it's a little different because you're kind of just continuing to read. Well, you think she told Stephanie, or not Stephanie, Sophia? You think Mildred told Sophia? I didn't say you did, Zozo. That's you interpreting that. I'm talking when I look up there, I see a bunch of smileys and curly faces. You're just implying that I'm talking to you. Yeah, you're just insinuating that. Nobody referenced you at all. I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah. Yeah, but they might have had some kind of a Mickey, right? Wasn't it called like a Mickey or something back then? Or wasn't a term until at least the 1980s, yeah? Yep. Hey, I'm gonna slip on a Mickey. Mickey Flynn, right? Something like that. Or Finn, is it Finn? Okay, Mickey Finn. Look at that, you said it almost the same exact second, Lee. D. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's really kind of it. I don't mind. You know, the thing is on a regular show, I don't care anymore. This is just one of those shows where I'm reading something for so long. And then you look over it and it seems like, oh wow, I must be wasting some time here. Because there was like literally 15 comments in a row that were just, you know, rolling around, laughing faces and things, and it was like, man, was that really that funny when the guy said that he saw Lou going out the back door, and then he saw what maybe could have been bloody clothes being burned, rolling on the floor laughing, you know. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, some of these cases it's cool because like even the one from earlier, everybody was like, they remembered it and we were talking about it. And it's kind of fun. I think it's fun when everybody's engaged in the case. You know, I know it's kind of like a family here, so a lot of times we're talking about other shit. I mean, I try to have breaks where I start talking about something else for a couple minutes. You know? Yeah, I know that part, Rebecca. I just said that like 2 seconds ago, right? I'd love it for one of you to be in the same position with the same amount of, you know, time that you put in and see if what you feel like in the exact same moment. You know? Oh, I'd love to do it, Gray. I would love to do it. I would love it. I would just chuckle and, you know, but, you know, it doesn't really work like that. Everyone always thinks how easy it all is and how everything, and it really isn't. You know, it's not easy to do a show where you're presenting the stuff and then you're also critically thinking about it at the same time to try to make sense of it all. That's why I have to read stuff over again. It's not that easy, to be honest with you, because if you're just sort of reading and presenting stuff, you know, it's easy to do that, but are you synthesizing it at the same time? And then when you what does that mean? Is that a light bulb or an ear? See ear. I'm looking at an ear. Yeah, I thought it was a good show. Well, I was just talking about that one moment in time where it's just, you know, and there's some people, virtually the entire show, almost none of their comments are related to the actual topic, you know? So I'm wondering if they're really even interested in stuff. Oh, is Blue distracting me? There he is. I wish I had a longer cord on it. I could stick it in his face. Yeah, I mean, they're not. There's moments where, you know, I pause and I'll joke around about something dumb, you know, that I did or something, and then we joke around. Then I try to get back to the case a little bit later. Well, thanks, Gen H. I'm not busting everybody's balls if you had them. Oh, shit. You know, and the thing is some people go, what is the word? Oh yeah, you attack women, Gray. Somebody said that, and I go, what are you talking about? Here's the thing is, I don't care what your sexuality is, all right, or what you are. It does. Listen, hey, women out there, if you want to be equal and totally equal to guys, quit having people say that shit. Whenever they say that, you should fight back. No, he's not. No, he's not. He just he attacks dumb comments. I don't care what somebody is, all right? Dumb comments, and like right now, I'm just talking about something that's frustrating to me during shows, right? It's crazy. And 80% of the people watching the shows are women, right? So that right there would mean that the odds are that if I was ever arguing with somebody, it'd probably be a female. So everybody, you should want it to be that way. And it doesn't matter. Listen, I'll still open all, you know, here's the thing. I open doors for women, or anybody really when they go there. But like if I went on a date or something, I open the doors. I always pay for the food and everything. But now you're sexist if you do that, right? It's weird. So, you know, where are we right now with that stuff? So let's say I went on a date in today's world. Let's say I was 30, and I was dating somebody in today's sort of the woke community, and I took a girl out on a date. Do we just split the check now because it's sexist to want to pay for it? Do I let her open her own damn door? And just, you know, you're just another dude, you know, just... Which one is it? Because our society is going to hell right now. The United States right now is a laughing stock of the entire world. Just going, what in the hell are you doing? Except they won't say that to your face, right? I guarantee it. Right now, we are just absolutely an embarrassment. What a joke. God, the crap that we pretend is important is just... Ugh. It's ridiculous. Well, I don't know, Gene. I don't know how you can say that. You and I battle all the time. But thanks anyways, Gene. Yeah. I've never been out on a date that I didn't pay for, except the one where the girl, the woman I went out with said, I'm paying tonight. You can't, like my birthday or something. Or they just wanted to take me out, right? I've actually had some of those. And it still feels kind of weird, but it, because I just... That's right. Adopted little brother. I don't know, Dan. It's hard not to, man. It's hard not to. There's just so much ridiculousness at this point. Well, one thing I will say is, here we go, Dan. Here we go. Boom! The border, for example, right? When Trump took over, he used the same facilities that Obama built. But for political reasons, the media called them concentration camps. And Trump built up the walls, secured the borders, and there was a trickle of illegal immigrants coming into the country. Oh, wait, I mean undocumented workers, right? coming into the country, right? Then Biden said, oh, everyone just come on in, come on down. And boom. I mean, there is a massive flood of undocumented workers. Yeah, really, a kid's an undocumented worker, right? So they're coming in here and they're piling into these same facilities that Obama built, but now it's called something nicer, you know, like the, you know, I don't even know what the hell they're called. It's stupid. And it's an absolute catastrophe on the border right now. And Trump even had deals with all the South American countries and Mexico to keep the mass migration from coming, and they would keep them there. But now they call, it is a freaking nightmare right now, okay? And they just want, and they're also, guess what? They've silenced the Border Patrol. They are unable to talk to the media whatsoever. I don't know what to tell you guys. It's really freaky times. And then the stuff that they put out as being important, like one of the first things first thing you do is you cut down the Keystone Pipeline just because it was something Trump got done, even though Canada wanted to keep it. It killed 15,000 jobs. For what? Now look at the oil prices shooting out the roof. Wood prices are going up. Oh, you can't cut down trees, everybody. Don't cut down trees. We should pray in front of trees, you know, because they're God's creation and they're just so wonderful. Ah, man, I'm just sick right now. It's sickening. Yeah, listen, you guys don't like Trump, so everything that Biden's doing is wonderful. But if you're rational people, the things that Biden are doing, the administration's doing, I don't even think it's him. I think he's just sort of this talking head, just, what do I do? What button? Like this. A lot of the stuff going on right now is sick, okay? Really bad for the country. And I think it's obvious, and I think people realize that. Yeah. So, yeah, look at, so like there's people that like, you know, they voted for Biden and everything like that. There's no way in hell that you can think that every single thing that he's doing is really good right now. Just because you like him. Use logic and reason and think through stuff. You know? Just think through it. Right. The children are sending him, and then guess what happens after that, Jen? Right after that, when the children are established here, guess what? The parents get to come over and be with their kids. They don't send the kids back to the parents. Yeah, that sucks. Just sucks. Jeez. It's unreal. And I'm sorry if you're somebody out there that just hated Trump so much that it didn't matter if you screwed up. I mean, things were going really well, other than you just didn't like him. The economy was doing great, and then we had the COVID virus. And look at all these changing sort of philosophies about the virus. A lot of the stuff he said are now the ones that they say, yeah, we now think you can do that. Well, okay, well, that's what he was saying. All right, that's what he was saying. And our economy actually stayed afloat during a freaking pandemic. And the stock market, which is really important because a lot of people's 401ks, retirement plans are based on that, actually soared, especially on the NASDAQ, the tech side. Now, if people were smart, thank you, you would have bought things like Carnival Cruise Line. I'm just kidding. No, you would buy Carnival Cruise Lines, the hotel. This is just my opinion. The hotel stocks, the banks, a whole bunch of things like that. Airlines, hotels, and cruise ships. And I would have bought those back in May or June or July, right? And go look and see what those have done since then, because you know at some point they were going to recover. And people are going to be on cruise ships. What age group are on cruise ships the most, by the way? Think about that for a second. What age group are mostly the people on cruise ships? Go ahead and type that in. Don't say, well, it's 30 because I take cruises. When you're on the cruise ship, what do most of the people, what age group are they in? Right, retired people, right? Now, let me ask you this next question. Who are the first people to get the coronavirus shots? Well, they pretty much fit in that same age range. Okay? And then they came out with ideas saying, well, if you've got the shots, you can hang out with other people who've got the shots and not even use your mask. Wow, so guess what? Wouldn't it be a great time for those cruise ships to say, hey, we're opening up cruise ships again, and everybody who's been vaccinated, get on our cruise ships, right? And then guess what? Those stocks will shoot out of the roof way past the point that they were ever at before out of enthusiasm. And that's right when you want to sell the damn thing. And then it'll go back down to a reasonable number, but a lot higher than it was now, or it is now, okay? You're too late to get Wynn Resorts. Go check out what that one used to be. Wynn Resorts, also Las Vegas Sands. One of the best ones out there was Spirit Airlines. Oh my God. That sucker was like $6, and now it's 30, I think. It was like just a lot of stuff going on out there. But if you look at the highs, like just for the hell of it, you should look at some of the, if you have an IRA or something, or a Roth IRA, you can look at some of the stocks that are hotel stocks. These are just ideas, people. I'm not recommending anything. You can look at some of these hotel stocks that are, and then look at what their high was and realize that the enthusiasm hasn't quite completely jumped in there yet, where the reports come out where, wow, man, there's a lot of people on cruise ships, a lot of people flying again, there's a lot of people doing this. And then boom, those will shoot up, and then, you know, you might want to get out of them or not. You know, you could stay in them. And then there's some really cool stocks like AT&T has a 7% dividend, but it's also right now about $10 or $15 lower than its high, right? So you get a 7% return, and then it might even bring in a return itself. That's 7% annually. And with the rule of 7, every 7 years you double your money in one of those stocks. You get what I'm talking about? Yeah. Well, Las Vegas Sands is, I mean, here, I'll tell you what's going on here. Hold on. Like Las Vegas Sands, LVS is the ticker symbol. Let me see. So 1 year, let's see, 1 year to date. Yeah, it was down. That one is a weird one because it was, the low this year was 50, now it's 65, which normally that's like, wow, but that never really got killed like some ones like Wynn Resorts, WYNN. You type that one in, and that was down to, let me go to 1 year. Yeah, it was $60 back in April of 2020, and right now it is 137. So that's 140. So it's actually 120% return. Yeah, so at $60, and now it's at 140. That's one I try to look at every once in a while. Carnival Cruise Line is, let's see. I can't remember which one, what that ticker is. I think it's, is this boring as hell to you guys or what? I was just thinking, man, what the hell am I talking about? Yeah, it's CCL is that one. So like Carnival Cruise Line, the low this year was, let's see, $8.80. Okay, that was back in April, and they were the first place to even have the coronavirus, right? And then right now it's about 30. So you went 8 to 30. And all that matters is the percent return, everybody. Don't worry about like, well, my God, it's $100 stock. And if it goes up to 200, then it's the same as a stock that's 5 going to 10. It doesn't really matter. It's harder to get a whole bunch of shares, however. Oh yeah, let me do Spirit Airlines. That one's crazy. It's called SAVE. Watch how wild this one is. It was at, I'm gonna do right there. It was $10 on April 27th last year. $10, and now it's 40. So that's a 300% return on that one. $10 to 40. So you put $1,000 in, you'd have 4,000. I mean, to me, it just seemed like it's sort of obvious, like what's going on here. I didn't get in on the tech boom that started off the rally. I didn't even know anything about, like I have an IRA, but I didn't know that I could actually convert it where I could pick the stocks, and then I did that way too late. So, and I don't know anything about that GameStop shit. That's a weird deal with that one. It seems like a house of cards about ready to collapse at some point. Yeah, but none of those are good deals as much as they were before. But you can still look at them, like Save Airlines, right? The high in the last 5 years was 52, and right now it's 38. So that's even a decent return from 38 to 52. And you kind of think that once everybody's flying again, there's going to be an over-exuberance to buy those stocks, and then they'll probably go up a little higher than they should have, right? It's not really cryptocurrency. It's people. There's a bunch of shorting. I don't know where you got that from. GameStop is a stock that was being beleaguered by people who short stocks for a living. They just sit there and they're a negative pressure over and over on a stock. If he even has a good day, boom, they short it because they're going to kill it out of there. So a bunch of people on Reddit got together and then said, so they buy contracts betting that the stock will drop, these people, right? So on Reddit they said, hey, let's just go in there and buy the hell out of it. And then it'll even go up higher because those short sellers will have to sell their, they'll actually have to sell their contract and buy in. And they were just wiping those people out. They were losing millions of dollars. And then the stock price got up to like 400. And then if those short sellers were smart, they would now do a short sell. So they got to buy it from 400 all the way down to 70. Boom, they're out. Boom, they made a killing. Right? But amazingly, it's been sort of hovering around 200 and something on a stock that was like $8. How is it doing that still? Like these people keep propping it up. Oh, where are you heading? Bush and Beach Live. Oh, that's right. You're going to like that cool northeast part of Australia, right? Like near Queensland, kind of. Well, you would have just understood it, Zozo. You would have just understood it. It was pretty simple. Well, the short selling stuff is pretty, that stuff's kind of hard to get, I had a friend that had this weird thing that he would do. His dad, and they've always been these really rich people, because they have these things called, they would do puts on the S&P 500 at a certain, when the VIX, the fear index went up really high, then they would do these puts on it. And it was just like this automatic money they would make, these tons and tons of money. I never really quite understood it, but it's wild. What am I doing right now? I'm hanging out with the Freak family. Anyways, you guys have fun. Alright, I'm going to go chill out. So, I appreciate you guys. Thank you all for supporting the channel. I know that there was like Zozo, and I can't remember exactly who the first 3 people. Well, let me go to the other page here. Hold on. I know I lost it though. The people that donated. I'll find it. All right. I'm not going to use the I'm not going to get a hold of John Boy for you guys. I'll just do it. So thank you to Claudia Neubauer, as in Claudia Neubauer, Michelle Niklas, Zozo, Believe Angel, Meredith McKenzie, Nicole Brower. Thank you. With a cat eye donation, and thank God for that, or it would have been a really slow evening session. Barbara Smith again, Sarita, and Goals Got a Soul. So thank you very much. Appreciate it. Joel's Got a Soul. Joel's Got a Soul. Hmm. 5 years. Oh man, you guys are nuts. Tell me what? Yep. Well, I know it's not your name. I know what your name is. But your name on there is Joel's Got a Soul. That's what it says. If you want, you should change it to your real name if you want to. I'm assuming that people that don't have their real name on the YouTube chat don't really want people to say their name, right? Maybe I should have done that too. I should have been called something like asshole, right? I know some people think that. Oh, Gray, you're so mean. But sometimes think about, maybe look in the mirror. You ever thought of that? It means... No! Yeah. Chewbacca? I'll be Chewbacca if you want me to be. Yeah, there you go, the gray asshole. There you go, I like that. Yeah. Well, I like Joel's got a soul, though. It sounds cooler, like you've got a soul. You know? I don't like Joel's got a sense of humor. You know? You should just write the whole thing out if it's that. Just like Crystal, aka Beaver Gaming sub Crystal. You might as well just do the whole thing. I like Joel's got a soul. Like you got a soul, but you're trying, you know, that's better sounding. Joel's got a soul. Man, sense of humor, you ruined it, man. You destroyed what was a cool sounding name. Oh, man. Yeah, I answered everything too. Gary, Craig, Greg, you know. Oogla boogla. Yeah, Joel's got a soul. I think it's better. I think you should actually take the H and turn it into an L. So it's just Joel's got a soul. It'd be awesome. Yep. Nope. You can call me what you want. Just don't call me late for dinner. Yep. Alright, I'm still lingering here, so... No, you say goodnight. No, you say goodnight. No, you say goodnight.
You say goodnight, Gray!
Okay, I will. Anyways, you, everybody wash your hands, maintain your social distancing, wear a mask, and for God's sakes, get the shot when it's available. And if you don't want the shot, that's fine and everything, but do not try to convince other people that they're dumb if they want to take the shot, because all science and reason says to take the shot. Okay, it works. All right, so what you'll be doing is putting that person in harm's way if you try to tell them not to take the shot. Okay, you should... It's almost like a crime, almost. It's crazy. If you don't want to do it, that's fine, but do not try to convince anybody else not to do it. It's crazy. Yeah, that's right. All right, everybody. Thank you very much. And listen, everybody, it does bother me when people start laughing and goofing around about other stuff, but like I said before, on regular shows, like I said, I don't care, you know, whatever's going on. I'm trying lately to not do it, but tonight was different because it was like a presentation, right? Other nights it's sort of a free-flowing deal. So that's just what it is. Hope you guys understand how it might make somebody feel if you try to picture yourself, you know, in an auditorium giving a speech or something, and you look in the crowd and there's people whispering to each other and sending texts and smiling and high-fiving people and doing somersaults in the aisles. I think you might think to yourself, wow, it is a bit weird. Somersaults. Yeah, that's awesome. All right, everybody, thank you very much. And until next time, be safe out there. Yeah, I've been doing this true crime thing for quite a while now. And during this whole time, I have not seen one person that is a crime dissector, flag rejector. I'm a certified human lie detector. Gonna get ya on a stretcher if you try and play me like a little projector. Crime sector is my nectar. Professor Grader's gonna give another lecture. Crime collector, freak connector, and I'm always gonna be a pup protector. Fool deflector, interceptor, and I'm meaner than a spectre with a vector on his pector. With all respect, y'all, just remember I've a temper fucking check ya. I have no agenda, I'm no pretender, and I'll serve it to you straight without the blender. And in the end, I'm gonna send ya on a mission to reveal the true offender. Yeah, so I'll just get right back to work. All right, everybody? Talk to you later.
I'm a certified human lie detector. Gonna get ya on a stretcher if you try and play me like an old projector. Crime sector is my nectar. Professor Degree is gonna give another lecture. Crime connector, freak connector, and I'm always gonna be a pup protector. Fool deflector, interceptor, and I'm meaner than a spectre with a vector. All his vector with all respect, y'all. I'm a certified human lie detector.
Yeah, the mugs just come in when the date on the receipt that they give you. It sometimes takes 2 or 3 weeks, something like that, maybe a month, especially over in the UK. Of course, it'll be cracked in about 1,000 pieces, but don't worry about that.
Well, that's weird. So they ship the mug, and then when it gets there, it's broken into 1,000 pieces.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Oh, weird. Okay, cool.
Did they just come that way?
Well, I don't know. I haven't got mine yet. But I did buy some Gorilla Glue, because when the mug gets here and it's all broken up, I'd like to glue it back together.
Well, why don't you just order another one, call the company up and say, hey, you broke it, and they'll rush you a new one.
Well, that's a good idea, but I want to see if I can put together, like a puzzle.
Well, what if it's broken into like 1,000 pieces, Mary Lou?
Well, that's the fun part about it, putting it all back together.
Oh, Jesus.
Ba, ba, ba. Ba, ba, ba.
Why do you always say hello when the music stops?
I don't know. It just feels like it got really quiet, so I say hello. And you answered, right?
I did answer.
See, that's why I say hello. Hey, Jen, how's it going, Jen H? all gonna get out of here a little early tonight.
Yeah. So, all right, go ahead and bring us out there, Mary Lou. Bring us out.
Hello?
What do you mean, hello? You're just ending the show now.
But still, it got so quiet. Gee.
Wow.
Gosh, Gray. You're so mean.
What do you mean?
Well, did you hear the way you talk to me like that?
No?
Oh, okay. See ya.